were held by men. Even more staggering is the fact that only 9% of banking CEOs are women. Representing only 25% of the workforce, men hold 84% of upper-level management positions and 91% of chief executive positions. Brenda Barnes, chairman and CEO of People's State Bank of Commerce and president of the bank's branch in Grant, Alabama, is one of few women who have managed to break the executive gender barrier in banking. What makes her story even more impressive is that she did it in 1996, 11 years before the 2007 study. As CEO of People's State Bank, Barnes oversees 9 branches in Alabama and Tennessee. As chairman of the bank's board of directors, she helps create vision, guide strategy, and set goals for the 9-bank organization. And as branch president in Grant, she oversees the day-to-day operation of the bank. Now, Barnes was a full-time student at Northeast Alabama Community College when she went to work at People's State Bank in Grant 32 years ago. She took night classes so she could work full-time at the bank during the day to pay tuition. Originally hired as a teller, Barnes learned the business from the ground up. She has worked in every department and held almost every position in the bank. I just always wanted to know more, Barnes explains. I wanted to know everything about every department. It was just a natural curiosity. But because of that, I can relate to every employee in the bank. I've been where they are. Within 6 months of being hired, Barnes was promoted to head teller. She has not looked back since. After earning her degree in business and finance from NACC and Samford University, she continued to work for the bank, eventually moving into management. In 1996, Barnes was offered the job of president of People's State Bank in Grant. Barnes was worried that some of the customers might have a difficult time relating to her or resent banking with a woman. It may not seem significant today, but it was significant at the time, especially for this area, Barnes explains. Even though I was being given an opportunity no one else probably would have given a woman at the time, it was a difficult decision. Barnes says her mother was a great source of encouragement to her while she was considering the offer. My mom has always been an encourager, Barnes says. I remember calling her and being overwhelmed, saying, "You know, I can't do this, Mom." But she never doubted it. She always said, "You can do anything you want to do if you want to do it badly enough." As the first female bank president in Marshall County and one of the first female bank CEOs in the state, there was enormous pressure on Barnes. It was tough at first, she recalls, but this community showed me so much support. They were behind me from day one. To them, the title meant nothing. I was the same person that they had been banking with for 20 years. It was at that point that I said, "Never will I get too important that I don't have time to see you." Even today, I still wait on people that I waited on when I was a teller. In addition to being promoted to branch president in Grant, the same year, Barnes was promoted to CEO of the 9-branch bank and elected to the bank's board of directors. Being a female local branch president was a big deal, she continues, but CEO of the entire bank, it was just unheard of at that time. She did not disappoint. Under Barnes' leadership as CEO, People's State Bank of Commerce has grown from $20 million in assets in 1996 to $250 million in 2009. A 1,250% increase in 13 years. When I first became CEO at every meeting, every conference I went to, I was the only female in the room, Barnes says. I had no problem with it, but for a while the other bankers almost acted like I was not in the room. Not only was I a female, she continues, but I was a young female. They would go around the table and not really ask for much of my input. I finally just had to take a stand and say, "Hey, I'm a member of this board and I do have input. I have something to say. Finally, they became comfortable with me, and it hasn't been an issue since. It was tough for a few years, but now I'm chairman of the board. As CEO, chairman of the bank's board of directors, and branch president, Barnes serves 3 separate roles. Normally, a bank CEO does not have the responsibility of running a branch, Barnes says. A lot of bankers play a lot of golf, go out on their boats and relax, work half days, or take 2 or 3 day vacations. I'm lucky if I take a week off each year. But that is my decision. That's what I choose to do because I love my job. I want to be the best that I can be. Running the bank's branch in Grant requires more hours of work, but Barnes sees advantage in the extra workload. It allows me to lead by example. Barnes says, I set the goals for all 9 bank locations. I know what is possible and what is not because part of my job is running the Grant branch. My train of thought is the same from tellers to bank presidents. I do not ask employees to do something that I would not try to do twice as hard myself. I never ever walk out the door to leave them to do the work. If anybody after hours, it's going to be me. Working long hours is a habit Barnes developed at an early age. I grew up very poor, Barnes says. I remember at 4 years old wanting a Chatty Cathy doll more than anything in the world. Well, my grandmother picked cotton, so I begged her to let me pick with her to earn the money for the doll. I knew if the man in charge would give me my own sack, I could pick enough to buy a doll, Barnes says. He said that at the end of the day, if my grandmother's sack was more full than usual, he would give me my own sack. When we finished that day and they went to weigh the bag, it was so heavy it broke. I was so happy. The next day I got my own bag and I eventually earned enough money to buy the doll. I realized then and there that if I was willing to work hard, there was really nothing out of my reach, Barnes reflects. I've worked hard ever since. That's just the way we were taught. If you want something, you work for it. I never knew not working was even an option. Barnes says much of her success comes from hiring excellent employees and placing a focus on customer service. I have always been blessed with a great team of employees, a great staff, and a great board of directors, Barnes says, but we wouldn't even be here without our customers. I always tell my employees that all banks offer the same services and products, but customer service is what we will do better than anyone else. As we have grown through the years, we have never lost sight of that philosophy. We take the same approach at every location, and I believe it has set us apart. Barnes says she believes she can continue to become a better banker. I never set goals to become bank president or CEO or chairman, Barnes says. I had no desire. My goal has always been to be a good bank and to be a good banker. I knew that taking those positions would help me to become a better banker, and that's why I took them. But I have a long way to go. I don't think I'm the best at what I do, so I will always strive to do better. I'm not content yet. If I get content, I lose my vision. I'll lose my excitement. Through the years, Barnes has been approached by a number of banks offering jobs. Despite offers of higher salaries and the opportunity to work for larger banks, Barnes has remained